Welcome to Data Analysis Scholarship course. Good evening, everyone. Let's confirm if we can hear me. This is Data Analysis Scholarship. We are going to be looking at tables. We are going to be looking at pivot tables. We are going to be also learning Excel word image. Welcome once again tonight. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see my screen. Welcome to Data Analysis Scholarship course. This is Data Analysis Scholarship course cohort 3. If you can hear me, if you can see my screen, drop in the comments. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. My name is Franklin. I'm a seasoned data analyst and a management consultant. Welcome once again for tonight's section. We are going to master how to use exact tables, how to use pivot table, and how to automate repetitive tasks using Excel word merge. Good evening. You are welcome to tonight's section. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop that in the comments, drop that in the chat, live chat. Drop that in the live chat if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop it in the live chat. Much appreciated. Also, I would love us to go to the analysis group, cohort 3 scholarship group, and let everyone in the scholarship know we are live. Let everyone know we are live. Go there and type we are live. Tonight we are going to be learning some powerful skills as regards to Microsoft Excel, and we are going to be seeing the reward application, how we can apply them to some reward application as time permits us this night. If you can hear me, if you can see my screen, drop it in the live chat. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you can see my screen. And also, as our tradition is, like this live, hit the like button. And also, if you can, share it to someone who is going to benefit from this live section. One of the things that brought up this scholarship and all that from the sponsor, even to us, is the desire for every person, especially graduates, professionals, workers, business personnel, to be able to use Excel effectively and productively. All right. Also, hit the like button if you haven't done so. And if you are joining now, your name, your scholarship ID, and your location. That is the first attendance for tonight. Your name, your ID, your scholarship ID, your location. If also you have gone to the scholarship group and let everyone know we are live, just type in the live chat done. Drop in the live chat and say done. If you have dropped it in the live chat, if you have gone to the live and if you have gone to the scholarship group, rather, drop it in the live chat done. I want us to go to the scholarship group. Those of us on the live call now, if you can hear me and you are part of the scholarship group, go to the scholarship current right now and inform everyone. Just go there and let them know. Say we are live, join now. All right, while we do that, we want to officially welcome us to tonight's course. Welcome to Data Analysis course, where you learn how to analyze data using Microsoft Excel from the scratch, starting from the basics up to the advanced level. Tonight we will be looking at Excel tables. So why should we use Excel table? Why should we format our data in a table? And from there we go over to pivot table. What are the powerful features that we can leverage on using pivot table, and how we can make our data analysis to be done with ease? And then we wrap it up with what we call merge, the powerful feature between Excel and Microsoft Word. You will learn how to integrate the two and make some task to be very easy and very, very awesome. All right. Now, without further ado, let's quickly delve into Microsoft Excel and then see what we have this night. Okay. Now, before us is these data sets. We are going to be looking at Excel tables and then the benefit of having our data formatted in a table. To do that, let me open another worksheet, and we are going to be using this data set. This is a sales data set. It's a sales table where you have the sales ID, the transaction ID, transaction date, time, quantity, store ID, and the likes. This data is a real life data, though generated, but is kind of a real life data that we are going to be working with this night. We are going to be working with this data set this night. Is kind of a real life data, let's put it that way. All right. If you can hear me and you are part of the scholarship, remember to drop your name, your scholarship ID, and your location. That's very, very important. Okay. Now, why should we use the tables? Why can't we analyze our data like this? This is a data set. Why can't we analyze our data? Check this is unit price, this is quantity sold, and that. Why can't we analyze our data? This is product category, this is product type, detail, the location, the ID, and the likes. Why can't we go ahead and analyze our data in this format? Now, let me explain certain things to us. When we talk about having exact table, there are certain things we benefit from making our data to be in exact table. One is it makes our data to be automatically formatted in a pattern, in a format that looks beautiful in the eyes. That's not just that. It also gives us some other functionalities. Ranging from the dynamic array to other functionalities that we are going to be seeing, auto updating to auto update your data set and the likes. So tonight we are going to be seeing how we can leverage Excel, or how we can leverage tables in order to get our data to be done in a more robust and in a more effective way. I guess we can all hear me. Before I proceed, I want us to confirm my audibility before I proceed this night. Can we all confirm my audibility before I proceed this night? Before I proceed, can we all confirm my audibility? You can see my screen. Confirm my audibility before I proceed. Much appreciated. Let me zoom in a bit. Let me zoom in a bit more so that please confirm if you can hear me. We want to proceed. Confirm if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. That much appreciated. Okay, the Excel file, can I? Okay, I will share the Excel file later. I will share the file later for us. Currently now, I can't really place where it is on my PC, but I will get it and share it for us. Please let me know if you can hear me. If you're on this live session, drop on the chat. You can hear me, you can see my screen, so that we proceed. We are going to be fast this night. We are going to be fast so that we close on time. All right, beautiful, praise. All right. Okay, now we have our data set. Let's say this is our sales data, and we want to format it, or we want to put it in table so that we can do analysis and get certain stuff done rightly. Now, there are different ways to format or to convert your data to a table. And why is very, very necessary, why is very, very important, especially if you are working with a large data set like the one we have here. This data set, control down, we take this data set is over 140,000. As you can see here, it's over 149,000. So imagine when you are working with data set that is over 100,000 range, over 500,000 range. What are the things you need to understand? You need to ensure that you format that data to a table. And why? Because when you keep on receiving data, let's say you are building a database, a sales database, you're using Excel, and you keep on receiving data. For example, you receive sales of today, tomorrow you receive another sales, and there are calculations, there have been analysis you have done using today's sales. For example, you have calculated the total sales, you have calculated the total revenue, profit generated, and other analysis you have done using the sales report of today. Now, when you receive the one of tomorrow and you add it to this data, for it to automatically update your analysis, you need to ensure that that data is formatted in a table. If it's not, when you update it, when you add new data, when you receive new data, it will not update. You will need to do the analysis again, run the functions again before you get the updated report. But if it's in a data, once you receive new data and then add it to the table automatically will absorb it, and then your report, your analysis will automatically update. Now, how do I mean? Let's take, for example, I have this unit price and this quantity sold. Let's take, for example, I want to calculate, follow me please, I want to calculate the total quantity sold. Let's say here, from this, remember we have not formatted this in a table, just bear that in mind. But let's say we want to calculate, let's say we want to calculate the total units sold. We want to calculate total units sold. Let's say that's what we want to do. We want to calculate total units sold. And of course, to calculate total units sold is a function called the sum. We use the sum function to get that. And then we come to the units sold here. We click on it, hold Control, Shift, and press the down arrow to highlight the entire range. That makes you to work fast. So you don't need to be dragging it down. Holding Control, hold Shift, and press the down arrow, you highlight the entire range. That's from that 1 to 140 something thousand within just clicks. So you don't need to click and be dragging down. That's a very shortcut. Then Control Backspace is to get you back where we are. So what we have here is now the total units sold is sum of the number of units sold per sale. So we hit enter. You see we have this to be the total units sold. Please bear that in mind. This is our data. This is our data we have when we have not formatted this data range in a table. Now let's also calculate the average. Let's also calculate the average. Let's also calculate the average unit sold. Okay, we can say equals AV, that's average, and then let's also do the same. Come over to this, hold Control, hold Shift, press the down arrow to highlight the entire range, Control bar space to get back where we are, and then we hit enter. That is what we have the average unit sold. We have it to be 1.14, the average unit sold. Okay, now having established that we have this, when our data is not formatted in a table, remember, I want us to remember that. Now let's go ahead and format this in a table, convert it to be in a table. There are different ways you can do that. The first is to head over to this, which you see format as table. When you click on it, it brings you different table design. It brings you different table design. Now, when you click on this, you see it already selected the entire range. It selects the entire from table ID to product detail. And if you want to note, it does that till the end of 140 something thousand, 149,000. It selects the entire range. If you can see here, you can see the line being selected. So the next thing is asking you here, my table have headers. Of course, when we go up here, you see that our table have column headers. These are column headers, transaction ID, date, time, up to the product detail. Now, having confirmed and established that, we say okay. If your table doesn't have headers, if it's from 1 to this, you can just unselect this. But if it has, you select it and then you say okay. Automatically it formats this in a table. Now once that is done, you will notice that you have a new tab here called table design. You have a new tab here called table design. Now one of the things you need to practice is this, is standard practice in analysis, that whenever you are working with a table, ensure to name that table. So the first thing we are going to do is naming this table as let me call it sales data. Now in naming this, it doesn't accept space or hyphen or asterisk or whatever. The only thing you use to separate is underscore. So shift is underscore or any other, or writing it together. So I want to write sales data. So to separate sales and data, you use underscore. But if you use hyphen, asterisk, or space or any other stuff, it won't go. So I hit enter. I have named this table sales data. Now for table, there are different functionalities we have access to. There are different functionalities we have access to. Like here we have different table design. If I don't like this, I can change to this. As you can see, if I don't like this, I can change to this. I can change to this, depending on the color or the format or the design you want. And let's say we get back to this one, that's on the table style. Other thing for table is, you see these things, we have this as banded rows. If you don't like these banded rows you have here, or what we mean by banded rows, you see this is light blue and you see gray and all that. If you don't want it, you can remove it from here. So once you remove it, you see that banded row, the blue grays are off, but we keep it here for very good sake. If you don't want the banded rows and you want it in columns, you see what it does. The gray color, the light blue appears in column form. What it does is this gives space, another one in column form. So either way, if you want it to be in column form, you select this. If you want it to be in banded row form, you see what we have here. So let's leave it at this. Another stuff is the filter button. This is filter button where you can use to filter stuff. For example, if you want to get only the ones of Lower Manhattan or Hell's Kitchen or Astoria, you can come over to this and select this. Let's select Lower Manhattan, or let's remove this and select Astoria, and then we say okay. The only thing we have here is the Astoria. We have that to be this. So that's one of the stuff of a table. It gives you the filter button by default. So let's return back what we have. Also, another stuff you can use when it comes to table is this total row. It's very, very handy. It comes very, very handy. When in Excel, you can use this total row. For example, if I click on it, you see it gives the total row. You can see what we have here. So what is this? It's showing me 149, the total row. But here, if I want to, one of the things that this helps to do is here the unit price. If I want to calculate the total unit price, you see this drop down arrow here. You see this drop down. You see this drop down as well. This total quantity sold, I can get it from here by going to select sum. Once I do that, it automatically gives me the answer. Why we are seeing this hash is because the stuff is not, if I will extend it, you see this is 214, which is the same to what we calculated earlier. You see it here, 214. However, another thing that you will notice when you format your data in a table is if you scroll down, you will notice your table headers remains with you. You can see them here. Let me remove the filter button for now. I don't need it. You scroll down, you will see them there. When you scroll down, you will see that your column headers, the title of each column remains. But if it's not in a table, you are most likely not to see it. If it's not formatted in a table, you are not most likely not to see it. That's one of the benefits of formatting your data set in a table. Now, another thing I want to show us is this. Let me remove the total row. Let me remove the total row. For a table, let's say, for example, we want to do a further analysis. This is unit price, this is quantity sold, and let's say, for example, we want to know the revenue. We want to calculate the revenue from each sale. We want to calculate the revenue. We can come over here and type revenue. So we can come over here and type revenue. When we hit enter, you see that automatically Excel absorbs this revenue as part of the table. This is one of the features of the table. It automatically absorbs it. So if I calculate, that's one of the features of table. Automatically it absorbs it. But if I calculate the revenue, what happens? To calculate revenue is unit price times quantity sold. That's how to get your revenue. Unit price times quantity sold. So if I say equals to, I will click on this cell. Now, one of the things you will discover is that instead of Excel to dictate the cell name, which is H2, what Excel is seeing the column header, is seeing the column name. So why is that so? Because once you calculate, you don't need to drag down. Every other thing will fill it itself. So when you say that, we say Shift 8, we press Shift 8, that's asterisk times, and then we click on the quantity sold. That's our revenue. So once that is done, I hit enter. But immediately I hit enter, observe what happened. Now, once I hit enter, you will observe that I don't need to drag any other thing down, all these other ones have been calculated till the end. So here is my revenue. Now let's Control Z. I think it has reached. Okay. Now we are back to the previous, the way it was earlier. Now let me add the same revenue so that we understand why that is very powerful. So if I come here now to calculate the revenue, I say equals the same function, the same this times this. You will notice that now Excel is seeing their cell value, their cell name. So if I hit enter, it calculates only 6, which I need to come here to double click before I can get the rest. But for table is not so. So if I double click here now, it will now fill down the rest. But if my data is already formatted in a table, I don't need to do any other thing. I just have to hit enter. Every other thing is being done. So that's one of the benefits of having your data set format in a table. Now, another way you can format your data in a table is by using a keyboard shortcut called Control T. Control T. So if I press Control T, automatically this comes out. You see it select the entire range. But before you do that, make sure that your active cell is within the data range, within the range or your data set. Don't click outside. If you click outside and press Control T, you see what happened. It's only that place you click will be highlighted. So make sure before you press Control T, the active cell is within the data range, is within this data range. So if I click Control T, it highlights every other thing, and then I will say okay. Automatically my table is in, my data now is in tabular form. I will remove this, and then let's add the revenue. And then let's do our calculation. Equals this times this. Hit enter. So the rest is history. That is calculated. Now, this is in a table. Let me do the same calculation I did earlier. Let me give space and calculate total units sold. I'm going to say equals, I'm going to calculate total units sold. This is my unit. Hold Control, hold Shift, press the down arrow, and hit enter. Automatically, it gives me a result of my total units sold. What did I calculate here? Okay, it's my error. I used table. It's my error. Equals sum. I didn't insert the function earlier. Apologies. So equals sum. I will come to the quantity, hold Control, hold Shift, press down arrow, Control, backspace, get back where we are, hit enter. So we have this. That becomes our total, the same as the total units sold. Now, if I do the same for average, if I do the same for average here, let's see what we have. Equals average, and then so that I want us to see why this, you need to ensure that your data is in a tabular form, and then we hit enter. Now it gives us the average. All right, now what we are going to do now is we are going to get data, and add to this table. So let me come over to this. Is the same data set. I have used it for different analysis before. So let me come over to this and copy. Let's say I copy a particular data. Did I change something here so that it will be the same? Unit price, product category. Okay, this one should be here. Let me move it to this place. Why is it hanging? That's because of the number of data sets, the large data sets that I'm using. So that makes it to hang a bit. So now I think every other thing is in the right format. Unit price, product ID, product category, product ID, unit price, this. Okay, everything is in the right format. Now what I'm going to do here is this. What I'm going to do now is, let's say I copy from here down. Let me copy at least up to 1,000. Yes, I think it's up to 1,000 now. Let me copy this and let me come over to this place and paste it below. Let's say we received new sales. We received new data from our sales of yesterday, and we want to add it to our existing data set. And because our data set is in a table, we are going to see what will happen now. So let me press Ctrl V and paste. So once I have done that, you notice, because I pasted it automatically below the last row of Excel of this data sheet, it absorbs it. But if I paste it after this, it will not absorb it. That's one thing you need to know. If I pasted it here instead of here, it will be on its own. So once I have done that, you see that automatically we have another data set added to what we have originally. So let's now see the analysis we have done earlier. The first one, the total and the average we did. Now, what do you notice here? You notice that, did I do this one when? Okay, I think I did this one when, okay. I think this one I did initially. Is it the, okay, let me use a simple data to show this, because I think going front and back, kind of confused me a bit. Let me use a simple data to show this. Let me copy something from here. Just let me copy this, just this. Let's say I copy just this. Okay, let me paste it here. All right, now let's calculate the sum equals and hit enter. That's the sum of the amount. That's it. Hit enter. Okay, now this is sum. Let me put it total. Now let's convert this to a table and we say okay. Let's convert it to a table and let me remove this filter button. Let's bring this back a bit so we see mostly what we are working with. Now let me also calculate total from this equals sum and then down, hit enter. The same stuff we have. All right, let's get okay. Think where is our data? Okay, here is it. Okay, let's get another few data from here. Copy, come over to this, and then let's paste. Okay, it has updated. Okay. Okay. So once I think I understand what happened now. Once you put it in a table, it will update. It will update. But let's remove it. Now I remember. Let's remove it to be not to be in a table. Remember this updates, but let's make this not to be in a table. That's what we were explaining earlier. Let's make it not to be in a table by, let me right click and then go to table and convert it to normal range. So this, I will say, okay, now this is now in normal range. If you click, you will not see any table here. Let's get another data and then add to what we have and see if it will update. Let's add it here and we paste. So when we add, you notice that this did not absorb because it's no longer a table and nothing changes here. Nothing changes here. So when you are working, you want to automate your work using Excel tables, you need to, using in your data set rather, you need to first ensure that your data is in a tabular form and then ensure that you why is this like this? Now you make sure that your data is in a tabular form so that when you receive new data, as you can see, when we receive new data, can we hear me? Can we hear me? Confirm if we can hear me, please. Can we hear me now? All right, beautiful. Where do you stop hearing me, please? Let me know so that I can explain. I can go back and explain. Where do you stop hearing me? Let me know where you stop hearing me so that I can explain. I will go and I can revert back and explain. Let me know where you stop hearing me, please. I'm waiting to get our feedback. If you are with me, let me know where you stop hearing me. Please, if you can hear me, let me know where you stop hearing me, or we are good to go so that we are already running behind schedule. All right, now I will quickly run through what we have been saying about exit table. The first thing you need to understand is that in this data set is not in a tabular form. You need to, once you receive a data set or whatever you are a data range you are working with, it is highly recommended you format it or convert it to be in a table. Like you click in any of the range, go to format and select any of these. This will automatically be turned to a table. And one of the benefits you have is that once you receive new data, let's say you are a sales analyst and every day they send you sales report and then you have to analyze it and update the sales report for the day. You don't need to be doing that analysis over and over again. You just need to do the analysis once and make your data to be in a table. So once you receive new data report or new data, add it to the table. Automatically it absorbs it, and automatically your result or the report, the analysis you have done will update. That's what we have been trying to explain. And the benefit of table, you will get other features under table design, like the banded row, like the slicer. As we inserted slicer here, for you to insert this slicer asset, you just need to go to click insert slicer and you select any of these, the store location and product category. And that is where that's why we have okay, that's the stuff as regards to the table. Another thing we can do with the table is to go to, another thing we can do is we have in Astoria. So if you want to get back all the data, just cancel this filter here. Once you do that, that is cancelled. Every other thing comes. You want to get back all as regards to product category, you cancel this as well. The same stuff all we return. So for us to get a chart from this, we can go to insert. Under the insert, we can come to pivot chart here. We can come to this pivot chart. In this pivot chart, we select pivot chart, or you select pivot chart and pivot table if you want. But here I select pivot chart. Now it asking me where do you want it. Okay, let me put it in the same location, so that let's put it in the same existing worksheet so that we can see it side by side. Let me select this location. Where do I want it to be? Let's put it here. This side, let's put it here. So that's where we want it to be, and then we say okay. So once that is done, this is our pivot chart builder. The next thing we do is, what do we want to see? What do we want to see? Let's say we want to see store location against revenue. How much revenue? How is different store performing? So I can take this store location and put it in the axis here, and then take the revenue and put it in the value here. So you see that this is what we have. The store, the one that is having the highest revenue from our chart is the Hell's Kitchen. That's the highest revenue from what we can see from our chart here. With this chart, we can go to the pivot chart or go to pivot chart design, and then come here to say change chart type. We can pie chart like this, or make it a 3D pie chart and say okay. Then we can select any of these. We see the ones that is this, or we select this by seeing them in percentage, which is much more better. You see this 34, this is 33, not much difference anyway. So you can still come here, check each of them. The one that gives you in different format, I think this one is okay. If you want it to be in the correct data, we select this. We can bring this in here. We can bring this in here for that purpose. So we have created a pivot chart from our data set. As once is in a table, these are things we can do as regards to our table. And here already you see the pivot table. When you click on it, this is the pivot table. When you click on this becomes the. All right, now having established that, let's move over to pivot chart. We need to move over to pivot chart. Let me delete this. Now, when we talk about pivot chart is an Excel engine. It's a Z feature that enables us to analyze large data set with using few clicks. No need of using complex formulas. No need of writing VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, different formulas, writing the average, writing the count A, and whatever. You don't need to write any formula. You just use pivot table and then analyze your data set with ease. That's one of the things that pivot table helps us. It's a very powerful feature in Excel for every analyst, especially when you are working with large data sets. Especially when you are working with large data sets, you are going to be making use of pivot table a lot. Working with large data sets, you are going to be making use of pivot table. Now, to understand pivot table and see how we can make use of it, we are going to be using this as well. Now, from this data set, we have already or formatted it or converted it to Excel table. The next thing we are going to do is to make pivot table out of it. To convert to a pivot table, what do? We go to insert. Under insert, this is pivot table. Then from pivot table, we select from table slash range. That's when you have your pivot table already here. If you don't have it, you can get it from another source as well. So once we click on it, automatically Excel dictates the range. So where do we want it? Let's put it in a new worksheet, and then we don't want to add it to a data model yet. We say okay. Now we have this is the new worksheet. This is the pivot table space. If I click out, you notice that the pivot table field disappears. What that tells us that we are no longer inside the pivot table. Now, if I click anywhere inside here, you see both the pivot table field and the tabs appear. You see pivot table, analyze, and design. So what that tells us is that we are going to be using this in order to do some analysis. And let me explain certain things here. This place, whatever you are seeing here, are the column headers. The column headers from the data source. This is the data source. This is our source data. So the column header is transaction ID revenue. The same way when we come to our pivot table, we see it transaction ID down to revenue. So what you are seeing here are the column headers. Here is the setting tools where once you click, if you don't want your table or your pivot table rather in this format, you can come here and select this. If you want it in this format, sometimes I work with this format because it gives me more space to see all my column headers. So that I most times work like this. And then if you want it this way, I don't work using these ones. Now here it says source sort in data source order. If you don't want to sort in data source order, you click on this. But it's always advised you leave it in the data source order. What is the data source? Where we got our pivot table from. All right. Now, what are the things we want to analyze? Let's say we want to get our product category. How much are we making from each? How much revenue are we generating from each of these products, from each of the categories? So I will take this and put it in the row section. So automatically, we don't need to ask what are the product categories we have from our data source. Instead of you remember, to get that, we can use the unique function and then write the unique function to get the product categories we have. But here automatically pivot table does that for us. What we just do is to click and drag. You click and drag and put where you want it. If I want it in the column format, I can drag it in column format. You see it appears in column, but it will make our data to look too stuffy. So we have to bring it back to row. So this is very okay for us. Then our revenue, anything that has to do with calculation, you want to calculate sum, our average, count, and what have you, you put it under revenue. So we come here and we put it here in revenue. So from there, we are seeing total revenue generated from each for each of these product categories. Now here we can come to this place, right click here, and go to sort. Now we can sort from largest to smallest, so we select this. So from largest to smallest, from here we can now see that coffee, product category of coffee, is where we are getting our most generating the highest revenue, followed by tea. Then the least is packaged chocolate. So that's from there we get that insight. Now let's take for example, we want to know the percentage revenue generated from each of these categories, whereas we also want it to be that this is here, we are also seeing the percentage revenue. What we are going to do is we can take this revenue as well and put it here. Now you see what we have here. We have this as a percent revenue, but what do? We can come here to right click. Having come here to right click, the next we go to is to show value. Now when we show value, we can come up here and select where is it? Okay, no, I think I choose the wrong one. Okay, that's on the column total. That's the one we select. So from there you see it shows the percentage revenue. So here to change it, we can just come over to this. We can come to this, come here. And then just put this sign, hit enter, it gives us our percentage revenue. You can double click on it or you just click on it and start typing. Now that is the stuff you can do. If you want to get average, let's undo, Control Z. If you want it to be average, you want to get the average revenue, you can come to this place. On this one, you click this more than this drop down arrow here. Go to value field settings. Now here you select average and you say okay. Now it shows the average revenue. Now from here, you can notice that even though coffee is where we are generating our highest revenue, but when we check it based on average revenue, in other words, the number of coffees we sold to the money we generated as regards to that. If you do that based on average revenue and we come to sort from largest to smallest, you will see that it's no longer coffee. It's now coffee beans, followed by branded, as we can see here. So either way, there are certain times you might want to know, okay, this is my total revenue. Okay, what's of our average revenue? From there, you can check from which, what that simply gives you insight is this. Let's say, for example, you have different stores from different locations. You have store in Lagos, you have store in Ibadan, you have store in Ekiti, Osun State, Port Harcourt, Owerri, Kano, as the case may be. Now, revenue pour in from those stores. Let's take, for example, Lagos. Lagos make a revenue of 100 million. And then Osun State made a revenue of, let's say, 25 million. Now, when you check based on average, in other words, number of customers attended to against the number of sales revenue generated, you might discover that even though Lagos generated 100 million, that Osun might be more productive, more profiting, based on the number of persons they attended to and the number of staffs they have. So those are certain things that when you check, when you analyze, have an in-depth analysis, you begin to find out that these certain things differs, not just in total revenue, but when we look at the average revenue, we are getting another dimension to it. So that is the aspect of having to use pivot table to analyze our data set. If not, we will be writing formulas, different formulas, functionals, functions, and the likes. And then the next we are going to look at is, for example, let's say we want to know how much of sales we made from different stores. We want to know how much of sales we made from different stores. So we can come here and take this store and put under filter of under the filter box here. We put it inside filter box here. You see we have something on top here, the filter. Here we can come to this drop down arrow, and when we select any of them, let's say we select Hell's Kitchen and say okay, automatically you see these changes. It shows us revenue generated from Hell's Kitchen alone as regards to these products categories. If we come to this and we select Lower Manhattan and then we say okay, automatically it changes as well and show us revenue generated from that particular location. So with this, it doesn't, we do stuff with ease. We analyze our data and run it with ease. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to be bringing our attention to is the pivot table analyze. In the pivot table, you can name your pivot table, and then you can also insert slicer and timeline. For example, our data has date. You can insert timeline here, which we are going to be make use of the transaction date, and we say okay, now we see this is our timeline. We can move forward and we can move backward. This is our timeline. Now let's take, for example, this is 2023. This is our timeline 2023. We can, if we want, we can stretch it a bit from January. We can make it from January to December. We can make it from January to December. That's all in 2023. Then you can choose different design for your timeline. Different design for your timeline. So any of your choice, let's stick to this. Now, having done that, if you want to know how much you made based on this product category, Lower Manhattan, in January, you select this January. Now you see it automatically updates. For Lower Manhattan here, as for coffee, we made $1,367 for example, as for this, an average of this. So if we want to know how much we made in March, we select. February, we select. This we select. So as we get to July for Lower Manhattan, we didn't make any. We come here, nothing, 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 nothing. Now let's say, let's check whether it's only for that, and then let's select all and say okay. All right, now we select all, still nothing in that region. So that means our sales, maybe our sales starts in June. That means this is a half-year report that we are having currently now from January to June. So our timeline, with using timeline, we also give us, using timeline, we also give us a time gap. Okay, we want to know how much we made in so month based on so location, as the case may be. That's what we have here as regards to pivot table. Another stuff in pivot table that we are going to go is to go to design. If you don't want the grand total, you come here, you off it, the grand total is gone. So with this we can go to pivot analyze and then insert a pivot chart. Now we see our chart, we see the pivot chart here. Before, if we do this, you are going to see different, you are seeing some stuff So if we say, okay, this is our pivot chart. We have this pivot chart. You are going to be seeing some yellow aspect. That's for the average revenue. That's for the average revenue. Let's say we don't want the average revenue again. We can click on it, hold, and push it out. So that is gone. Hence, you see our data range updates itself. The data range is purely updated. And what we are having here is based on July. If I click on January, you see our chart updates. If I click on March, you see our chart updates. But if I want to get all, I will come here to cancel the filter. I will clear the filter here. So you see the stuff that updates everything comes back to its normal, which of course we have talked about chart. I don't like working with grid lines. Then I don't like working even with the chart title. And then we just right click, hide value field buttons. We have more stuff like this based on what we have. So these are different amounts we made as regards to this. Now so with this pivot table, we can do analysis, get a bit of insight from what we have. Here we can do analysis, get a bit of insight, and okay, let me push it up like this. All right, that's our pivot table. So with this, you can run any analysis. You can get insight from your source data. And when you receive a new data into this table and you come to this, the only thing you need to do is to come to pivot analyze and come to refresh and say refresh all. That's all. Now let's take, for example, let's come to this place and receive new data. Let's come here and receive new data to add to what we have, to see what the update will look like. I want to copy something significant to add to what we have here. Okay, now Control C. So let me come to the source data. Come over, let me come to the source data, come to the last, and then let me paste here, Control V. So once that is done, I think, okay, that's automatically, you see, is being absorbed in a table. That those are being absorbed in a table. Now let's go over to this. The data is becoming heavy. Let's say let me delete. Let me delete this. Okay, now we see what we have. We have this 27 days and that. So let's go to pivot table analyze and then come over to this and say refresh all. So you see a change is done. This from 27 to 28. You will notice some changes to this. So what that helps us to do, because our data here is in a table, so once we receive a fresh data add to it, automatically whatever our analysis here is, when we refresh it, every other thing updates on its own. That is on the pivot table. These are things, a few stuff you can do on pivot table. However, or a more in-depth analysis or a more in-depth use of pivot table, I will drop us also a video on that. We can watch it and then learn much more on the things to do as regards to pivot table. There are just few more things to do as regards to pivot table. When we get to data visualization, we can begin to look at the filter connections and the likes. When we have multiple charts, multiple visuals to work with, we'll be looking at filter connections and the likes. All right. Now, having established that, we will be moving over to another stuff which we call mail merge. We are rounding up, we will be rounding up this section very soon. We will be rounding up the section this night very soon. We will be looking at Excel word mail merge. Now, what's Excel word mail merge? Now, let's take for example, these are student lists, admission list. Let's say this, where of course, if you work in the admin session, of course you know you will have more than this list as per student admission list. Of course, we know that you will have more than this as per student admission list. But we want to keep it simple. Let's say this student list, and you are an admin or a clerk or a secretary, and you are asked to send admission letter. Let's take for example, this is in Microsoft Word, this is the draft of the letter, the draft of admission letter the institute always sent to students. Let's say this just a design, and a design, if you know me, you know I like using ABC for a lot of things I do. So let's say this in the university is called ABC University, Excellence, Dedication and Success. Then we have the address, the student name, the so this, congratulations, you have been offered provisional admission into whatever program is under this, for this. Now, this is the draft, but each student ought to receive a personalized admission letter. However, if you are working in the admin and you are asked to send admission letter to over 5,000 students, 10,000 students, as the case may be, both master students, pre-degree students, degree students, and the likes. Are you going to be typing it one after the other? You come to look at this. Okay, this is the person name. You come here and type. This is the department here. You type this. Only you will not even be able to achieve it. You will, in fact, that will take you a lot of time, a lot of productive time. But with Excel, you can automate it, and you can have a list. The list of the students, let's say this, the student, there's their ID, their full name, the course they are being admitted to, the department they are being admitted into, the admission date, the section. Let's say these are personalized information that is attached to them. So instead of copying them one after the other and pasting in the letter and send, you can use what we call Excel word mail merge, where you have the data saved in Microsoft Excel, where you have their details saved in Microsoft Excel. Also, here is a student list. For example, you are working in the admin and this graduation period, you have to print certificates. Let's say you are working as an admin in the student record, and that's in OAU, in UI, in Photo. You have to print student certificates. This is their ID, this is their full name, their matric number, program they did, the graduation date, grade, and certificate number. Let's say you are going to be doing that. Are you going to be typing it one after the other? You might make mistakes. That's why before now, in the time we serve in NYSC, when we are about to pass out, one of the things the LGIs will intimate us on is that when you get your certificate, check it very well, check your name properly to know whether there is a mistake on it. What does that tell you? That tells you that they typed the name, or they write it in the certificate. The person typed it. So the person typing it might not be conversant with a particular name, or is a human being, he might make mistakes. But if using Excel word mail merge, it can integrate all members' details from the NYSC site. Having entered their details on the site, they can get their names, their full names from the database, save it in Excel, then link it up with the data, with the certificate form, either in Microsoft Word or link it up in other softwares. For Excel and Microsoft Word, that is what we call Excel word mail merge. And we are going to learn how to make these things to be done with ease. You are working with a company and you want to give award of certificate. You want to award certificates to persons who have performed very well. You don't need to type it. You just get their details, save it in Excel, and then the certificate design, the certificate template, the design, save it in MS Word, and then integrate them, each and every one of them, and send it to the printer for printing. That's all. Then put the paper you want to use. If you are using any paper, you put it, design it in MS Word. Most of us don't know that we can design stuff in Microsoft Word. So these are basic things in which when we learn them, we integrate them in our day-to-day tasks. It saves us a lot of time. Or you are working as a virtual assistant, or you are working as a secretary, a personal assistant, and the boss said, forward this letter to all department heads that we are going to be having meeting by weekend. Forward them email, send them a mail, or send them letter. All of them, we are having a meeting by this weekend. The body of the letter is the same. The only thing that we change is their name, their title, their department. So since the body of letter is the same, you are not going to be, you type the letter, then you type this person's name, send it, then come and type another, enter his name and details, send and put and all that. It will take you productive time. Why not, as person, you have their details already, save it in Microsoft Excel, and then you link it up with the letter you have written, and then off you go. These are powerful features that you need to master, and that's one of the things we are going to learn this night. So let's take, for example, this is admission letter, and we want to send the admission. We want to send admission letter to these students. We want to send admission letter to these students, for example. Now, what are we going to do? Note this. This is the Excel workbook. I call it admission list. That's where I have the name of the student saved. I call this student list. I say these are student details. Keep that in mind. Okay, let's go over to our Microsoft Word. Let's take, for example, we already have the letter written out, the template of the letter written out. How do we now match the data from Excel to this and make it dynamic? So to do that, we will go to this option called mailings. Now under mailings, you go to select recipients. Now when you click on select recipients, you go to use an existing list. Once you click on use an existing list, this box will appear. go to where you save it, save the list. Let's think, I think the admission list is in, where did I save it? Is it, okay, let me check documents. It's not here. Where is it? Okay, let me do something here so that we don't delay. Let me go save as and then save it on desktop so that it will be easier for me to locate. Okay, let's go back to this. Come to select recipient, use existing list. Let's get to desktop. Then that's our admission list here. So I click on it and then say open. It shows this. It's asking us which of the sheets. There are two sheets. There are student details and student list. Of course, the student details is in the student is in the student list. Then it will show first row of data contains column headers. Yes, our data contains column headers. That's where you see their names, the department, and the likes. And then you click OK. Now, once that is done, we have linked Excel into Word. So we are going to be inserting the fields. So here, dear, what will be here is the name. So we will come to insert merge field. Dear, that's what we are going to put here, name. Then, congratulations, you have been given provisional admission into we go to course. I think is department, under program, under the okay, let's this is department, this will be course here. If that is correct, order, and I'm just assuming. Then for that will be academic section. So we come to section here. Then academic section on that will be dates. So we insert the admission date with the student ID. So this one is common. We come to this and insert the ID here. So that we have done. So you will insert the date of the letter. The date is constant for that particular day. So you see this. You don't need to be doing that over and over again. You merge it once. So what do we see here when we preview? When we preview, you see what we have. There, Lori Murphy. This provision into the media department program under the BSc mass economics, mass communication, rather this. So what that entails is so if we click on this, then let's leave the other one. Then here, if we go forward, you see. Now here you can forward this letter then forward this. You don't need to be typing them manually. They're already there. They're already there. Till the last is 10. If you are still going, there is no data for it here. The last is 10. So with this, it makes your work to be easy. It makes your work to be easy. You can do it with ease. If you are working as an admin and you are sending letter to the staffs, you have the staff details. You put their names here and that you forward you send to mail. If you are using Outlook mail, you come here and say finish and merge. So when you come here, finish and merge, if it is to send, you send email messages. And please note, for you to send email messages, you will have their email list. You will have their email list. So once you have their email list, you can also insert it to their email, and then off we go. So that is that is the aspect of mail merge. You use it in different stuff. Let's take, for example, if it's for certificate purpose, let me see if I will have a certificate template here that I can use by default. It's still searching. I think I'm not seeing. Okay. Okay, I think this is a certificate sample here. Okay, let's say I'm using this. Let me use this straight. Now we have, let's say this, and then let me remove this person name here. Have successfully completed the course of study. Successfully completed. Okay, this. So let's say this is certificate. The only thing we need here is to insert the date the certificate is being issued is static. We just need only to put in the name. What can we do? Here we can come to mailing, go to select use existing list. Here we saved it in desktop, and this is our admission list. Then here is the student details, and then we say okay. The next thing we need here is the name. So we can come here to insert merge field, and we say full name. That's all. So once that is done, it takes the format to which you have designed it, the font style you gave it, and all that, it takes that into play. So if you want to now know how the name, you see it here is Lauren, is Lola Allen, and then you move forward, you send this person's phone to printer, the printer will be printing it, you put this one, and then you print. You are not typing. So with this, you will not be saying that maybe you will not be talking about making mistakes. With this, you will not be talking about making mistakes. If there is any mistake in the name, it will be from the list. Maybe the person that entered it make the mistake, not from you. So with that, it reduces errors, and then it reduces workload as well. So if you move forward, and then you send your work, and off you go. If you want to get to the last of the list, you click on this. So this takes you to the last 1,000. If you want to come to the first, that's the first record, you come here, it shows you this, the first record. And that is a very powerful feature, a very powerful stuff to which we can use Excel and Microsoft Word to ensure that we work fast and to ensure that we mitigate and reduce errors and workload. And that is where we will wrap up the section this night. That is where we will wrap up the section this night. Those of us that are around, drop your name, your scholarship ID. That is the second attendance for today. Your name, your scholarship ID. Drop your name, your scholarship ID. That is the second attendance for today. Also, let me know how is tonight's section, what and what did you learn, what and what did you master, and that also feel free to drop it in the comment in the live chat. Thank you for being with me. And please, I need to say this. Our attendance to class is dropping day by day. I will also drop that. I will also say that in the group. Our attendance to class has been dropping day by day. It's not encouraging. I use a lot of data for this live session. So it will not be encouraged. It's not encouraging that most of us are not available, are not live for this section. And to that effect, we might have to take some actions. Either do a recorded video and send to the group, or send us cohort 1 training, live trainings, we go through it. But why I like holding my lectures live for each cohort is so as to be able to address individual challenges. Each of the students' challenges, I can be able to identify them, address them live in the training. For example, someone has talked about having the data set that I am using for training. These are some challenges. So please, if you know any of them, or if you are hearing me now, I want us to give our voice also to the group. Let every person sit up. Let every person sit up. Currently now we are just 8, sometimes we are 6, sometimes I will not even see anybody online. So please, let's sit up. Let's sit up. Let's sit up. Thank you, and do enjoy your nights.